She was in the back seat, talking about secrets she'd never tell her husband, but she didn't know the taxi driver was actually her husband in disguise. What she revealed during the ride would expose the secret she had kept during their years of marriage. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also, please let us know in the comments where you are watching from. New York, London, maybe Lagos or Johannesburg. We want to know. Bennett found the card on the floor of Vivienne's wardrobe. A plain card, no logo, just a name written by hand. Declan Ryder and a phone number. It was crumpled like she tried to hide it, but it fell out when she grabbed her purse. "Who the hell is Declan Ryder?" he muttered, slipping the card into his pocket. It was a Thursday when Vivienne came downstairs for breakfast. Bennett was in the kitchen, watching his wife with new eyes. After years of marriage, he thought he knew every person in her life. Now he was finding out there were men whose names she kept hidden. "Good morning, love," Vivienne said, kissing his forehead without really thinking about it. "Who's Declan Ryder?" he asked straight out, pulling the card from his pocket. Vivienne froze. The coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. All the color drained from her face instantly. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "In your wardrobe. It fell out when I was looking for my cufflinks." "Who is he?" "He's nobody important. Nobody important." "Then why do you keep his number on a crumpled card hidden in your wardrobe?" Vivienne set the cup down on the table. Her hands were shaking so badly the cup rattled against the saucer. "Bennett, he's just a work contact." "Work? You don't work, Vivienne? You haven't worked in years." It's about that charity project I wanted to start." Bennett watched his wife make up an excuse right in front of him. After years together, he had learned to read every little expression on her face, and right now everything about her face was screaming that she was lying. "What charity project?" "The one I mentioned about helping poor children." "You never said anything about a charity project." "Yes, I did. You just weren't paying attention." "Vivienne, I pay attention to everything you say. And you never ever mentioned any charity project. And you definitely never mentioned Declan Ryder." She stood up so fast, her chair fell over backward with a loud crash. "Bennett, I'm not going to sit here being questioned in my own home. Your own house. It's our house. And I have the right to know who the men my wife has been meeting are. I haven't been meeting any men." "Then why did you hide that card from me?" "I didn't hide it. I just didn't think it was important to mention." "You didn't think it was important? A man you don't want me to know about isn't important." Vivienne started pacing back and forth in the kitchen, running her hands through her hair. That was what she always did when she was nervous, when she was trying to think of what to say. "All right, Bennett. I'll tell you the truth. He works at a charity organization. I was thinking about doing some volunteer work there." "What organization?" "One that helps children. Does it have a name?" Vivienne hesitated. "Yes." "What name?" "Hope. Hope Foundation. Never heard of it. It's small. It's located on the east side of the city." Bennett grabbed his phone and typed Hope Foundation East Side. Nothing came up. "There's no Hope Foundation on the east side, Vivienne. It must be because it's really small. They probably don't have a website these days. Even the corner store shows up on Google. If a charity organization isn't on Google, it basically doesn't exist." The fear on her face was becoming more and more obvious. "Bennett, please stop investigating me like this." "Investigating?" "I'm asking about a card I found in your wardrobe, and I already explained." "You lied. Explaining means telling me the truth." At that exact moment, Vivienne's phone rang. She looked at the screen and went even paler than before. It was a number Bennett didn't recognize. "Answer it," he said. I don't have to answer right now. Answer it in front of me. Bennett, that's invading my privacy. Privacy? After I found a card with a man's name hidden in your wardrobe and you want to talk about privacy. The phone stopped ringing. A few seconds later, a text message came through. Vivienne glanced at it quickly and shoved the phone in her bag. What did the message say? Nothing important. Let me see it. I'm not showing you. Why not? Because I don't have to. Yes, you do. I'm your husband. Being my husband doesn't give you the right to look through my phone. Bennett moved closer to her. His voice was low and hard. Vivienne, I'm asking you one last time. Who is Declan Ryder? And what are you two doing behind my back? We're not doing anything. Then why are you sweating like that? Why are your hands shaking? Why can't you look me in the eyes? Because you're putting me under pressure. I'm putting pressure because you're lying. The phone rang again. This time, Vivienne didn't even look at the screen. Answer it, Bennett ordered. I'm not answering. Why not? Because I don't want to, or because it's Declan Ryder and you can't talk to him in front of me. Vivienne stayed silent. Her silence told Bennett everything. It's him, right? That's why you're not answering. It's not him. Liar. If it weren't him, you'd answer like normal. The phone stopped ringing. Right after 2 text messages came through, one right after the other. Vivienne didn't look, but she was clearly nervous. He's desperate to talk to you, Bennett said, watching her face. 2 messages. What's the rush? I don't know what rush you're talking about. The rush of a man trying to talk to a married woman who can't answer in front of her husband. He's not married. The answer slipped out of Vivienne's mouth before she could stop it. Bennett smiled, but it was a cold smile. A mean smile. Oh, he's not married. How interesting. How do you know whether he's married or not? If he's just a work contact? Vivienne realized her mistake. Her eyes went wide. He mentioned it. When did he mention it? At the meeting about the volunteer work. At the meeting for the charity that doesn't exist. Bennett, stop it. Stop what? Stop asking questions any husband would ask when he finds out his wife has secret contact with a single man. It's not secret contact. Then why did you hide the card? Why didn't you ever mention his name? Why won't you answer his calls when I'm right here? Vivienne had no answers. She just stood there in the middle of the kitchen with tears in her eyes, completely trapped. You know what I think? Bennett continued. I think you're cheating on me. I think this Declan Ryder is your boyfriend, and I think you two have been laughing at me for months. That's not true. Then prove it. Call him right now and put it on speaker. I want to hear what kind of conversation you two have. I'm not going to do that. Why not? If it's just volunteer work, what's the problem? Because it's embarrassing. Embarrassing for who? For you or for him? Vivienne started crying. Real tears ran down her face. Bennett, don't you understand? Then help me understand. Just tell me the truth. I can't. What do you mean you can't? I can't tell you right now. When can you tell me? I don't know. Bennett felt anger explode inside his chest like a bomb going off. Vivienne, you're destroying our marriage. Do you know that? I know. And you still won't tell me the truth. I can't. Why can't you? What's so terrible about it? Vivienne looked at him with a look he had never seen before. Pure fear, like she was drowning in deep water and couldn't call for help. Because if I tell you, she whispered, you'll hate me. I'll hate you more if I find out on my own. No, you'll hate me way more if you know the truth. Her words hung in the air like something heavy and dangerous. Bennett realized he was facing something much bigger than just a simple affair. Vivienne had secrets she would rather destroy their marriage than reveal. "So that's it," he said, his voice cold as ice. "You'd rather keep your secrets than save our marriage." "Bennett, it's not like that. It's exactly like that. You're choosing Declan Ryder over me. I'm not choosing anyone." "Yes, you are. You're choosing to protect a stranger instead of trusting your husband." Vivienne ran out of the kitchen. He heard her footsteps on the stairs. Then he heard the bedroom door slam so hard it shook the walls. Bennett stayed alone in the kitchen, staring at the crumpled card in his hand. "Declan Ryder," he muttered to himself. "I'm going to find out who you are and what you're doing with my wife." Over the next few days, Bennett watched Vivienne like a detective watches a criminal. She kept getting mysterious phone calls and always hung up when he walked into the room. She would leave the house without saying where she was going and come back hours later with a different look on her face, like she had just finished doing something important. On Tuesday, she left in the afternoon saying she was going to the supermarket. She came back with no bags. "Where are the groceries?" he asked. "There wasn't anything good." "You spent hours at the supermarket and didn't buy anything." "I went to several stores." "Which stores?" Walmart, Target, Whole Foods." "I wanted to compare prices, but that was a lie." Bennett knew she hadn't been to any supermarket. She had spent the afternoon with Declan Ryder doing things she couldn't tell her husband about. On Thursday, the same thing happened. Vivienne said she was going to the hair salon, but she came back with the exact same hairstyle. "How did your hair turn out?" he asked. "I just washed it and trimmed the ends." "It doesn't even look like you cut anything." "I only cut a tiny bit." "Vivienne, your hair looks exactly the same. Maybe you just didn't notice the difference. Or maybe you never went to the salon at all." She went upstairs without saying another word. Bennett stayed in the living room planning his next move. If Vivienne wasn't going to tell the truth, he would find out on his own. But he wasn't going to hire a private detective or make a big scene. He was going to find out the smartest way possible. He was going to sneak into her secret life. The weekend passed in tense silence. On Monday morning, Bennett didn't go to work. Instead, he had a different plan. A plan he had been working on all weekend. He woke up early before Vivienne and drove to a part of the city where nobody knew his face. At a thrift store that smelled like old clothes and dust, he bought cheap clothing. Faded jeans with a small hole in the knee, a plain gray t-shirt, a worn brown jacket, and a baseball cap. At a dollar store, he found cheap sunglasses, the kind that cost $3 and made everything look a little blurry. His next stop was a car rental place on the east side of the city, far from his usual world. He rented the most ordinary car they had, an old white car with scratched paint and a dent in the back door. "How long you need it?" the man behind the counter asked without looking up. "A week," Bennett said. "Cash or card?" "Cash." The man didn't ask any questions. He just took Bennett's money and handed him the keys. Bennett spent Monday and Tuesday watching his own house from down the street, studying Vivienne's routine like a spy. She left every afternoon. Sometimes she took her car. Sometimes she called a taxi. On Tuesday, he followed her in his rental car. She went to the east side just like he suspected. She disappeared into buildings. She came back hours later looking somehow lighter, like she had set down a heavy backpack she'd been carrying all day. By Wednesday, Bennett had a complete plan. On Thursday afternoon, he was ready. He dressed in his thrift store clothes, pulled the baseball cap low over his face, and put on the cheap sunglasses. When he looked in the mirror of a gas station bathroom, he didn't see Bennett Hale, millionaire businessman. He saw someone ordinary, someone invisible, someone Vivienne would never recognize. He drove his rental car to the street corner, where Vivienne always caught her taxi on Thursdays, and he waited. Vivienne came out of their house. She looked left and right, then raised her hand to call a taxi. Bennett pulled up to the curb. "Need a ride?" he called out, keeping his voice rough and different from his normal voice. Vivienne looked at the car, then nodded. "Yes, thank you." She opened the back door and got in. Bennett's heart was pounding so hard he thought Vivienne might hear it, but she didn't notice anything. She was too busy looking at her phone. "Where to?" Bennett asked, still using the rough voice. "East Side," Vivienne said. "Mason Street." Bennett started driving. His hands were sweating inside his cheap cotton gloves. His wife of years, was sitting right behind him, and she had no idea who he was. For the first few minutes, Vivienne was quiet. She just looked out the window, her phone in her lap. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Bennett watched in the rearview mirror. He saw her take a deep breath, like she was preparing herself for something difficult. She answered the call. "Hello," she said quietly. "Yes, I'm on my way." I know. I should have come sooner." "No. He doesn't know. He can't know. He would never understand." Bennett gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. This was it. This was the confession he'd been waiting for. Vivienne's voice got even quieter, but Bennett could still hear every word. "I'm so tired of lying to him," she said into the phone. "Every single day I wake up and I have to pretend. I have to pretend I'm someone I'm not. No, he thinks I'm from a nice family in the countryside. He has no idea." She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. "I know you think I should tell him," Vivienne continued. "But you don't understand. People like Bennett, rich people from good families, they don't marry people like me. They don't marry girls who grew up the way I did. If he knew the truth, he would look at me differently. He would see me differently." Bennett's mind was spinning. This wasn't about an affair. This was about something else. Something he had never expected. "My mother is getting worse," Vivienne said. And now she was crying. "The cancer is spreading. The doctor said she needs better treatment, but it costs so much money. I've been using my own savings, but Bennett would ask questions if he knew. He would want to know where the money was going, and then I'd have to tell him everything." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I love him so much," she whispered. "But I'm terrified that if he knew who I really am, where I really came from, he wouldn't love me anymore. He married Vivienne from the countryside. He didn't marry Vivienne from the East Side slums. He didn't marry the girl whose father was a bricklayer and whose mother sells vegetables on the street corner." Bennett felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. All this time, he had been so wrong. "I have to go," Vivienne said into the phone. "I'm almost there. Tell Mom I'll be there in minutes." "Yes, I brought the money for her medicine." "Okay, bye." She hung up and sat back in the seat, staring out the window with tears running down her face. Bennett drove in silence. His mind was a storm of thoughts and feelings he couldn't even name. This wasn't about Declan Ryder being her boyfriend. This was about shame, about fear, about a woman who loved her husband so much that she had been lying to him for years because she was afraid he wouldn't love the real her. And the worst part, the part that made Bennett feel sick to his stomach, was that maybe Vivienne was right to be afraid. Because hadn't he always treated people from the East Side differently? Hadn't he always seen them as somehow less than himself? He pulled up to Mason Street. "Here you are," he said in his rough taxi driver voice. "Thank you," Vivienne said quietly. She paid him and got out of the car. Bennett watched her walk down the street toward a small, run-down apartment building. She wiped her eyes one more time, straightened her shoulders, and went inside. Bennett sat in his rental car, his hand still gripping the wheel, his heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. He had come here to catch his wife cheating. Instead, he had discovered something much worse. He had discovered that the woman he loved had been so afraid of his judgment that she had built her entire life on a lie, and he had no idea what to do about it. Bennett sat frozen in the rental car, staring at the building where Vivienne had disappeared. His disguise suddenly felt like a costume from a terrible play. The cheap sunglasses, the worn jacket, the fake rough voice. What had he been thinking? He looked around Mason Street for the first time, really looked at it. The buildings were old and crumbling. Paint peeled off the walls like old skin. Children played in the street with a torn soccer ball. An old woman sat on her front steps, selling fruits and vegetables from wooden crates. Laundry hung on lines stretched between balconies, waving in the afternoon breeze like colorful flags. This was where Vivienne came from. This was the world she had been hiding from him for years. Bennett felt something twist painfully in his chest. Was it guilt? Shame? He wasn't sure. He only knew it hurt. He waited minutes, then longer. Finally, he got out of the car. He walked slowly down the street, keeping his cap pulled low, pretending to be just another person from the neighborhood. He found the building Vivienne had entered. It was number 47, a 3-story apartment building with faded yellow paint and a broken front gate. He stood across the street, partially hidden behind a parked truck, and watched through a ground-floor window with thin curtains. He could see movement, shadows of people inside. He heard voices, a woman's voice weak and tired, Vivienne's voice, gentle and caring, and another voice, a man's voice. Declan Ryder. Bennett's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, moving carefully along the side of the building where he could hear better, but still stay hidden. "The medicine is very expensive," the man's voice was saying, "but it's the only thing keeping her comfortable right now." "I know," Vivienne said. "I brought money." "It's okay. You've been using money every week for months," the man said. "Where are you getting it all? Does your husband know?" There was a long silence. Bennett held his breath. "No," Vivienne finally said. "He doesn't know, and he can't know, Declan. Please, you promised you wouldn't say anything." "I promised," Declan said gently. "But Vivienne, this isn't right. You're married to him. He deserves to know the truth. He deserves to know about your mother, about your family, about where you really come from." "You don't understand," Vivienne said, and Bennett could hear the tears in her voice. Bennett comes from a different world. His parents are rich. His friends are rich. Everyone in his life is rich and educated and proper. I'm not proper. I'm a girl from the slums who got lucky, who learned how to talk right and dress right and act right. But it's all fake. I'm fake. "You're not fake," Declan said firmly. "You're the same person you always were. You just have nicer clothes now." "That's exactly it." Vivienne said, "I'm the same person. But Bennett doesn't know that person. He knows the person I pretended to be. The person with a nice family from the countryside. The person whose father was a teacher, not a bricklayer. The person who went to good schools, not night school, while working in a shop during the day. If he knew the truth, he would see me the way I really am." "And what's wrong with the way you really are?" Declan asked. Vivienne's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Everything. Everything is wrong. I don't belong in his world. I never did. I just got good at pretending." Bennett felt like he couldn't breathe. Each word Vivienne spoke was like a knife cutting into him, not because she had lied, but because she had felt she needed to lie. Because something about him, something about the life he had built, had made the woman he loved feel like she wasn't good enough. "Your mother wants to see you," Declan said, changing the subject. "She's awake now." Bennett heard footsteps. He quickly moved away from the window and crossed back to the other side of the street, hiding behind the parked truck again. Minutes passed. The sun was getting lower in the sky, painting the buildings in orange and gold light. Bennett checked his phone. He had been here for hours. The front door of Building 47 opened. Vivienne came out, but she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, a black man with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. He wore simple clothes, jeans, and a button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up. This had to be Declan Ryder. They stood on the front steps, talking. "Thank you for being here," Vivienne said. "I don't know what I would do without you." "Your mother is my sister," Declan said with a small smile. "That makes you my niece. Family takes care of family." Bennett's world tilted sideways. Declan Ryder wasn't Vivienne's boyfriend. He was her uncle. All of Bennett's suspicions, all of his jealousy, all of his angry accusations, they had all been wrong. Completely, totally wrong. "How are your kids?" Vivienne asked. "They're good," Declan said. "Michael made the basketball team at school. Sarah is still asking when her cousin Vivienne is going to come visit and bring her husband." Vivienne's face fell. "I can't. You know, I can't. You could if you told him the truth. I'm not ready. When will you be ready?" "I don't know. Maybe never." Declan put his hand on Vivienne's shoulder. "You can't live two lives forever, Vivienne. Eventually, something's going to break. Either your marriage or your heart. Maybe both." Vivienne wiped her eyes. "I have to go. Bennett thinks I went to the hair salon. If I'm gone too long, he'll start asking questions again. He's already asking questions, isn't he? About me." "Yes," Vivienne admitted. "He found your card. He thinks we're having an affair." Declan shook his head sadly. "And you're going to let him keep thinking that instead of just telling him I'm your uncle? If I tell him you're my uncle, he'll want to meet you. He'll want to know about the family, and then everything will come out. Would that really be so terrible?" "Yes," Vivienne said quietly. "It would be the end of everything." She hugged Declan quickly, then hurried down the street toward the main road, where she could catch a taxi home. Bennett stood behind the truck, his whole body shaking. Not from cold, not from anger, from something else. Something that felt like his entire understanding of his life was crumbling into dust. He watched Declan go back inside Building 47. He watched the door close. He watched the sun sink lower in the sky. Then he walked back to his rental car, got in, and drove home. But he didn't go inside the house. Instead, he parked down the street and waited. A taxi pulled up. Vivienne got out, paid the driver, and went inside their beautiful house with the marble floors and the chandelier and the grand piano nobody played. Bennett sat in his car, still wearing his disguise, and tried to figure out what to do next. He had 3 choices, he realized. First choice, he could pretend he never found out. He could throw away the disguise, go back to his normal life, and act like nothing had happened. Vivienne would keep her secrets. He would keep his suspicions buried. They would continue their quiet, polite, emotionally distant marriage until one day one of them couldn't take it anymore. Second choice, he could confront Vivienne again. He could tell her what he discovered. He could demand the full truth, but he already knew how that would go. She would panic. She would cry. She would shut down just like she had before. Third choice. He could do something different, something harder, something that would require him to be honest with himself about things he had never wanted to look at too closely. He could try to understand why Vivienne had been so afraid to tell him the truth. He could look at his own life, his own attitudes, and ask himself the hard question. Had he done something, said something, been something that made his wife feel like she wasn't good enough? Bennett took off the cheap sunglasses and the baseball cap. He looked at himself in the car's rearview mirror. He saw a man with expensive dental work and a haircut. A man who had never gone to bed hungry. A man who had never worried about how to pay for medicine. A man who had never had to pretend to be someone else just to be loved. He thought about Vivienne's words. People like Bennett, rich people from good families, they don't marry people like me. Was that true? Would he have married Vivienne if he had known the truth from the beginning? If he had known she grew up in the slums, if he had known her father was a bricklayer and her mother sold vegetables on the street, Bennett wanted to say yes immediately. He wanted to believe he was the kind of man who didn't care about those things. But was he really? He thought about the way he talked to the janitors at his office building. Polite, but distant, never really seeing them as real people. He thought about the way he had reacted when his business partner suggested hiring someone from the East Side for a management position. He had said, "Let's find someone more polished." He thought about the jokes his friends made at dinner parties about those neighborhoods and how he had laughed along, never stopping to think about who actually lived in those neighborhoods. People like Vivienne's mother. People like Declan Ryder. People like the little girl Vivienne used to be. Bennett felt sick. The sun had completely set now. Stars were starting to appear in the darkening sky. He needed to make a decision. He started the car and drove back to the east side of the city. This time he didn't hide. He parked right in front of Building 47, got out of the car, and walked straight to the front door. His heart was pounding, but he kept walking. He found the apartment number 1B ground floor and knocked. The door opened. Declan Ryder stood there looking surprised. "Can I help you?" Declan asked. Bennett took a deep breath. "My name is Bennett Hale. I'm Vivienne's husband. And I think we need to talk." Declan's eyes widened. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Declan stepped aside. "You better come in." Bennett stepped into the small apartment. It was nothing like his house. The furniture was old and worn, but clean. The walls were bare, except for a few family photos and cheap frames. The whole apartment was probably smaller than his living room at home, but it was warm. Really warm. Not the temperature, the feeling. There were colorful blankets folded on the couch, a vase with fresh flowers on the table, children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. It felt like a home where people actually lived, not just a place to keep expensive things. "Sit down," Declan said, pointing to the couch. He didn't sound angry or scared. "Just careful." Bennett sat. Declan sat in a chair across from him, watching him closely. "How did you find me?" Declan asked. "I followed Vivienne," Bennett admitted. "I dressed up like a taxi driver. I picked her up. I heard her phone conversation. I heard everything." Declan nodded slowly. "So, I know some things," Bennett said, "but not everything. That's why I'm here. I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. Because Vivienne won't." "Vivienne won't tell you because she's terrified," Declan said. "She thinks you'll leave her if you know who she really is." "That's crazy," Bennett said automatically. "I love her. I would never." "Would you have married her if you knew from the beginning?" Declan interrupted. If on your first date she told you her father was a bricklayer who died when she was 12, that her mother sells vegetables on the street, that she grew up in a one-room apartment with 5 siblings, that she only went to school at night because she had to work during the day, would you have married her then? Bennett opened his mouth to say yes, but the word wouldn't come out because he wasn't sure, and his hesitation was an answer all by itself. Declan saw it. That's why she didn't tell you, because of that pause right there, that moment of doubt. But I do love her, Bennett said, and his voice cracked. I do. I need to understand what's been happening. Please. Declan studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. All right, I'll tell you. But first, there's someone you should meet. He stood up and walked to a door at the back of the apartment. He knocked softly. Mama, there's someone here who wants to meet you. A weak voice answered from inside. Who is it? It's Vivienne's husband. There was silence. Then bring him in. Declan looked at Bennett. Her name is Miriam. She's my sister, Vivienne's mother. She's very sick, so please be gentle. Bennett stood up, his legs shaking. He followed Declan into the small bedroom. The room was dim, lit only by a small lamp on a bedside table. In the bed lay a woman who looked much older than she probably was. Her skin was gray. Her cheeks were hollow, but her eyes were bright and sharp and kind. They were Vivienne's eyes. So you're Bennett, Miriam said. Her voice was weak, but clear. Vivienne's told me so much about you, though. I suppose she told you nothing about me. Bennett didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were sick. Of course you didn't. How could you? Vivienne made sure of that. Miriam coughed, and Declan quickly handed her a glass of water. After she drank, she continued, Come closer. Let me look at the man my daughter loves so much she's been lying to him for years. Bennett sat in the chair next to the bed. He felt like he was in a dream, a strange, uncomfortable dream. You want to know the truth? Miriam asked. Yes, Bennett whispered. The truth is simple, Miriam said. My daughter was born in this neighborhood in a hospital 3 blocks from here. Her father, Robert, was a good man, a bricklayer. He worked hard every day building houses for rich people to live in. He never got to live in one himself. She paused to catch her breath. Declan stood nearby, ready to help if she needed it. When Vivienne was young, her father fell from a scaffold at a construction site, 3 floors up. He died instantly. We had no money for the funeral. The neighbors collected coins to help us bury him. Bennett felt tears burning in his eyes. After that, I did whatever I could to keep the family fed. Miriam continued. I sold vegetables. I cleaned houses. Vivienne was the oldest of 5 children, so she had to help. She worked in a shop during the day and went to school at night. She was so smart, Bennett. So smart and so determined. She wanted more than this neighborhood could give her. She deserves more, Bennett said. Everyone deserves more, Miriam corrected him gently. But not everyone gets it. Vivienne got lucky. She got a scholarship to a better school. She learned how to talk like educated people talk, how to dress right, how to act right. She became someone different. But why did she lie to me about it? Bennett asked. Why didn't she just tell me the truth? Miriam smiled sadly. Because she met you at a party for rich people. She was working there, serving drinks to people like you. You started talking to her. You liked her. You asked her out. And she was so scared that if you knew she was the girl serving drinks instead of the girl drinking them, you wouldn't want her anymore. That's not fair, Bennett protested. She should have trusted me. Should she have? Miriam asked, and her voice got a little stronger. Tell me, Bennett, In your world, in your fancy restaurants, and your business meetings, and your country clubs, how many people like us do you see? How many bricklayers' daughters? How many vegetable sellers' sons? Bennett had no answer. Vivienne didn't lie because she's a liar. Miriam said she lied because the world taught her that people like us aren't good enough for people like you. And maybe you taught her that too, without even meaning to. How? Bennett asked desperately. How did I teach her that? Declan spoke up from where he stood by the door. Did you ever bring her to this neighborhood before today? No. But did you ever ask her about her family in detail? Really ask and listen? I thought I did. When she told you her father was a teacher, did you ever wonder why she didn't have any photos of him? Why she never talked about her school days? Why she changed the subject every time family came up? Bennett thought back. Vivienne had told him her father was a teacher. He had never asked which school. He had never asked to see photos. He had just accepted the story and moved on because the story fit what he expected, what he wanted to believe. I failed her, Bennett whispered. Yes, Miriam said simply. But you're here now. That's something. I don't know how to fix this, Bennett. I don't know what to do. Miriam reached out her thin hand. Bennett took it carefully, afraid he might hurt her. The question isn't what you do, Miriam said. The question is, who are you? Are you the kind of man who can love my daughter, the real Vivienne, not the pretend one? Are you the kind of man who can see past where someone comes from and see who they are inside? I want to be, Bennett said, and he meant it with his whole heart. Wanting isn't enough, Miriam said. You have to prove it. Not to me, not to Declan, to Vivienne. You have to show her that she can be herself, her whole self, and still be loved by you. How do I do that? That's for you to figure out, Miriam said. She was getting tired now. Her voice was fading. But I'll tell you this, words won't be enough. Vivienne has heard pretty words before. She needs to see change, real change, in how you see the world and how you treat people, in who you are. Declan stepped forward. Mama needs to rest now. Bennett stood up. Thank you, he said to Miriam, for telling me the truth and for raising such an amazing daughter. Miriam smiled. She is amazing, isn't she? She always was, even when she was a little girl selling mangoes on the street corner to help pay for her school books. She was amazing then, and she's amazing now. I just hope you can see that. I do see it, Bennett said. Then prove it, Miriam whispered and closed her eyes. Declan led Bennett back into the living room. They stood there in awkward silence for a moment. What happens now? Declan asked. I don't know, Bennett admitted. I need time to think, to figure things out. Are you going to tell Vivienne you were here? Bennett thought about it. No, not yet. If I tell her now, she'll panic. She'll think I'm angry. She'll think I'm going to leave her. I need to figure out how to show her that none of that is true. Declan nodded. Fair enough. But don't take too long. My sister is dying. She doesn't have much time left. And Vivienne is carrying all of this alone. The lies, the fear, the grief. It's too much for one person. I know, Bennett said. I'll figure it out. I promise. He walked to the door, then turned back. Declan, thank you for taking care of Vivienne all these years, for being there when I wasn't. She's family, Declan said simply. That's what family does. Bennett left the apartment and walked back to his rental car. The neighborhood was dark now except for the streetlights and the warm glow from apartment windows. He could hear music playing somewhere, smell food cooking, hear children laughing. This was Vivienne's world, the world she came from, the world she thought he would reject. He sat in the car and thought about everything he had learned. His wife had built her entire life on a lie, not because she was a bad person, but because she was afraid. Afraid of him, afraid of his judgment, afraid that the truth would cost her everything. And maybe she was right to be afraid. Because Bennett had to admit something painful to himself. He had never really asked about her past. He had accepted her simple story because it was convenient, because it fit, because asking more questions might have revealed something uncomfortable. He had loved the version of Vivienne she presented to him, but he had never bothered to wonder if there was more to the story. Bennett started the car, but he didn't drive home. Instead, he drove around the city thinking, planning, trying to figure out how to fix something he hadn't known was broken. It was late when he finally went home. He parked the rental car down the street and walked to the house. He let himself in quietly. Vivienne was asleep on the couch in the living room, still wearing her clothes. The TV was on, but muted. She must have been waiting for him and fallen asleep. Bennett stood there looking at her, really looking at her. He tried to imagine her as a little girl in this East Side neighborhood, selling mangoes to buy school books, going to school at night after working all day, watching her father die, taking care of her siblings, fighting so hard to build a better life. She was strong, so much stronger than he had ever realized. He went upstairs, changed into his pajamas, and came back down. Gently, he picked Vivienne up from the couch. She stirred, but didn't wake up. He carried her upstairs to their bedroom and laid her down on the bed. He took off her shoes and covered her with a blanket. Vivienne opened her eyes sleepily. "Bennett, where were you?" "Working late," he lied. "Go back to sleep." "Okay," she murmured, and closed her eyes again. Bennett lay down next to her in the dark. He listened to her breathing. He thought about all the secrets she was carrying, all the fear, all the loneliness, and he made a decision. He was going to change, really change, not just his actions, but his heart. He was going to become the kind of man Vivienne could trust with the truth, the kind of man who deserved her. But first, he needed a plan. The next morning, Bennett woke up before Vivienne. He lay in bed for a moment, watching her sleep. Her face looked peaceful, but even in sleep, there was a tiny line of worry between her eyebrows, a line that never quite went away. How long had she been carrying this burden? Their entire marriage. Bennett got up quietly and went downstairs. He made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, but he wasn't checking emails or looking at business reports. He was researching. He typed cancer treatment costs. He typed best doctors for stomach cancer. He typed East Side neighborhood programs. He was still reading when Vivienne came downstairs later. She looked surprised to see him still home. "You're not at work?" she asked. "I'm taking the day off," Bennett said. "Actually, I'm taking the whole week off." Vivienne's face went pale. "What? Is something wrong?" "No," Bennett said carefully. "I just realized I've been working too much. I want to spend more time at home with you." Vivienne didn't look relieved. She looked more worried. "Oh, okay." They had breakfast together in uncomfortable silence. Vivienne kept glancing at Bennett like she was waiting for him to say something to ask another question about Declan Ryder to start another fight. But Bennett didn't mention Declan. He didn't mention the card. He just ate his eggs and read the news on his phone like it was a normal day. "I have some errands to run today," Vivienne said. "Finally." "Okay," Bennett said. "Where are you going?" Vivienne froze. "Just around shopping, you know, for anything specific." "No, just looking." Bennett nodded. He didn't push. Have fun." Vivienne left the house, just like always. Bennett waited minutes, then grabbed his car keys. But this time, he didn't put on his disguise. He didn't follow her in the rental car. Instead, he made a phone call. Dr. Garrett Voss's office. A woman's voice answered. "Hello," Bennett said. "I need to make an appointment. It's urgent. It's about cancer treatment." While Vivienne was visiting her mother, Bennett was across the city at one of the best hospitals talking to one of the best cancer doctors. Dr. Voss was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes. He listened carefully as Bennett explained the situation, though he left out the parts about the lies in the disguise. "Stomach cancer stage 3, Dr. Voss repeated, making notes. "And she's currently receiving treatment at East Side Community Clinic." "Yes," Bennett said. Dr. Voss nodded. "They do good work there with limited resources, but for stage 3 cancer, she needs more aggressive treatment. Chemotherapy, possibly surgery, definitely better pain management." "Can you help her?" Bennett asked. "I can try," Dr. Voss said, "but I'll need to see her medical records. I'll need to examine her myself. And I have to be honest with you, Mr. Hale. Treatment like this is very expensive. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a year, maybe more." "Money isn't a problem," Bennett said immediately. "Doctor." Voss looked at him carefully. "Does the patient know you're here?" "No," Bennett admitted. "Does she want this kind of treatment?" I don't know. I haven't asked her." "Mr. Hale," Dr. Voss said gently, "I appreciate that you want to help, but this is her mother's life we're talking about. You can't just swoop in and make decisions without talking to the family first." "I know," Bennett said. "But the family, they don't have money for this. They've been struggling just to pay for basic medicine. If I wait to ask permission, it might be too late." Dr. Voss was quiet for a moment. "Here's what I can do. I can visit the patient at her home. A house call, no charge. I'll examine her, review her case, and give my professional opinion about what treatment options are available. Then, your wife and her mother can decide what they want to do. How does that sound?" Bennett felt relief wash over him. "That sounds perfect. When can you come?" "How about tomorrow afternoon?" "Tomorrow is perfect." Bennett left the hospital with a plan forming in his mind. But he knew the doctor's visit was only the first step. He needed to do more. He needed to show Vivienne and himself that he could be different. He drove to his office building downtown. It was a tall glass building with marble floors and expensive art on the walls. His company owned the top 3 floors. He took the elevator up, but instead of going to his private office on the top floor, he stopped on the 2nd floor. This was where the maintenance staff worked, the janitors, the security guards, the people who kept the building running, but who most employees never even noticed. Bennett walked into the break room. 3 people were there, 2 janitors and a security guard. They looked up in shock when they saw him. The boss never came down to the 2nd floor. "Mr. Hale," one of them said, jumping to his feet. "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong," Bennett said. "I just wanted to talk to you all. Can I sit down?" They looked at each other nervously, but nodded. Bennett sat down at their small table. "What are your names?" he asked. They told him. Marcus, the security guard, Linda and Jose, the janitors. "How long have you worked here?" Bennett asked. "Years," Marcus said. "Years," said Linda. "Years," said Jose. "Years," Bennett thought with shame. Jose had worked in his building for years, and Bennett had never once asked his name. "I have a question for you," Bennett said. "Do you think the wages here are fair?" They looked shocked. Nobody had ever asked them that before. Linda said carefully. We're grateful to have jobs, sir. That's not what I asked, Bennett said. I asked if you think the wages are fair. Can you pay your bills? Can you save money? Can you take care of your families? There was a long silence. Finally, Marcus spoke. No, sir. To be honest, no. I work here full-time, and I still need a second job on weekends to pay rent. My wife works too. We have 3 kids, and sometimes at the end of the month, we have to choose between buying medicine or buying food. Bennett felt sick. And I had no idea. You're a busy man, sir, Jose said quietly. You have important things to think about. You're not important, Bennett asked. Jose looked uncomfortable. We're just janitors, sir. Just janitors? Bennett repeated. He thought about Vivienne's father, a bricklayer, building houses for rich people to live in, but never getting to live in one himself. No, you're not just anything. You keep this building running. Without you, none of us could do our jobs. He stood up. Starting next month, everyone on the maintenance staff is getting a raise, increase in wages, and I'm adding health insurance, full coverage for you and your families. If anyone needs help with anything, medical bills, school costs, anything, you come talk to me directly. Okay. They stared at him like he had just spoken in a foreign language. Is this a joke? Linda whispered. No joke, Bennett said. I should have done this a long time ago. I'm sorry I didn't. He left them sitting there in shock and went up to his office. His assistant, Kendra, looked up in surprise. Mr. Hale, I didn't expect you today. You said you were taking the week off. I am, Bennett said, but I need you to do something for me. I want you to review the salaries of every employee in this company who makes less than $50,000 a year. And I want you to set up meetings with each of them so I can talk to them personally. Kendra blinked. Every single one. Every single one. That's over 100 people, Mr. Hale. Then we better start scheduling, Bennett said. Bennett spent the rest of the day making changes. He called the head of human resources and told them to improve the health insurance plan. He called the company accountant and told them to create a fund to help employees with financial emergencies. He sent an email to all the managers telling them that from now on, every employee from the CEO to the janitors would be treated with equal respect. Some of his business partners called him that afternoon, confused and worried. Bennett, what's going on? One of them asked. I heard you're giving huge raises to the maintenance staff. That's going to cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. The company can afford it, Bennett said. But why? They didn't ask for raises. They weren't complaining. Just because someone doesn't complain doesn't mean they're not struggling, Bennett said. And just because we can pay them less doesn't mean we should. You're being emotional, his partner said. This isn't good business. Maybe not, Bennett said. But it's the right thing to do. He hung up and sat in his office, looking out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Vivienne was with her dying mother. Somewhere out there, people were working 2 jobs just to feed their kids. Somewhere out there, children were going to bed hungry, while he sat in an office that cost more than most people earned in a year. How had he never seen it before? No, that wasn't quite right. He had seen it. He just hadn't let himself really see it. Because seeing it would mean admitting that the world wasn't fair. That his success wasn't just because he was smart or hardworking. It was also because he was lucky. Because he was born to the right family. Because he had opportunities that people like Vivienne never got. His phone buzzed. A text message from Vivienne. Going to be late. Don't wait up for dinner, Bennett texted back. No problem. Be safe. He knew where she was. He knew why she would be late. Her mother was dying, and she was spending every possible moment with her while pretending to Bennett that she was shopping or getting her hair done or meeting friends who didn't exist. How lonely she must feel, Bennett thought, living two lives, never able to be fully herself anywhere. Well, that was going to change. Bennett made one more phone call. Declan, it's Bennett. Listen, I need your help with something. That night when Vivienne came home, Bennett was waiting in the living room. She looked exhausted. Long day? He asked. Yeah, Vivienne said, not meeting his eyes. The stores were so crowded. Vivienne, Bennett said gently, come sit with me. She looked scared, but she sat down on the couch next to him. I want to tell you something, Bennett said, and I want you to just listen, okay? Don't say anything until I'm finished. Vivienne nodded, her hands twisting together nervously in her lap. I've been thinking a lot lately, Bennett said, about our marriage, about our life together. And I realized something. I realized that I've been a bad husband. No, you haven't. Vivienne started. Please, Bennett said, let me finish. I've been a bad husband because I never really asked you about yourself. I never pushed when you seemed uncomfortable talking about your past. I accepted your simple stories because they were easy, because they fit into my idea of what my wife should be. Tears started rolling down Vivienne's face. I created a marriage where you didn't feel safe telling me the truth. Bennett continued, and that's my fault, not yours. What? So, I want to tell you something right now, and I want you to believe me. He took her hands in his. Whatever you're hiding from me, whatever secrets you think will make me stop loving you, you're wrong. I love you, the real you, not some perfect version, not some story. And nothing you could tell me would change that. Vivienne was crying harder now. You don't understand. You're right. Bennett said, I don't understand because you won't tell me, but I want to understand. And I'm ready to listen. Really listen. Whenever you're ready to tell me. He stood up and kissed her forehead. I'm going to bed. Take your time. And Vivienne, stop going to fake hair appointments. If you need to go somewhere, just tell me you need to go somewhere. You don't have to lie anymore. He left her sitting on the couch, crying. Upstairs, Bennett lay in bed in the dark, his heart pounding. He had made the first move. Now he had to wait and see if Vivienne would make the next one. Bennett didn't sleep much that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. Vivienne came upstairs. She went into the bathroom. He heard water running for a long time. When she finally came to bed, she lay down on her side, facing away from him. Bennett wanted to reach out and touch her to comfort her, but he knew she needed space. She needed time to think about what he had said. In the morning, Vivienne was already awake when Bennett opened his eyes. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in her pajamas, staring at her hands. I didn't sleep, she said quietly. Me neither, Bennett admitted. I kept thinking about what you said, about how I don't have to lie anymore. You don't. Vivienne turned to look at him. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. But I'm scared, Bennett. I'm so scared. I know, he said softly. You say nothing I tell you will change how you feel. But you don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know who I really am. Then show me, Bennett said. Let me meet the real Vivienne. Vivienne stood up and walked to the window. She stood there for a long time, looking out at their beautiful yard with its perfect green grass and expensive flowers. If I tell you the truth, she said finally, everything will change. Our whole life together it's built on lies. Once you know the truth, we can't go back. I don't want to go back, Bennett said. I want to go forward with you, the real you. Vivienne pressed her forehead against the window glass. I'm not who you think I am. My father wasn't a teacher. He was a bricklayer. He died when I was young, falling from a construction site. My mother doesn't live in a nice countryside house. She lives in a one-room apartment on the east side, and she's dying of cancer right now. Bennett sat up in bed. He wanted to tell her that he already knew all of this, but he stayed quiet. This was her moment to confess, her moment to finally tell the truth. I have 4 younger brothers and sisters, Vivienne continued, her voice shaking. After my father died, I had to help take care of them. I worked in a shop during the day and went to school at night. I never went to the good schools I told you about. I went to cheap schools, free schools. I studied in the library because we didn't have electricity at home half the time. She turned around to face him, tears streaming down her face. When I met you at that party, I wasn't a guest. I was working there serving drinks. You started talking to me, and you were so kind and so handsome and so different from anyone I'd ever met. And when you asked me out, I panicked because I knew if you found out I was just a poor girl from the slums, you wouldn't want me anymore. Vivienne Bennett started, No, let me finish. Vivienne said, I need to say this. I lied to you on our first date. I made up a whole story about my family, about my life, about who I was. And then one lie led to another lie, and another until my whole life was a lie. And the worst part is I didn't just lie to you. I lied to myself. I started believing that if I pretended hard enough, I could become the person I was pretending to be. She sank down onto the floor, her back against the wall, sobbing. Declan Ryder isn't some man I'm having an affair with. He's my uncle, my mother's brother. He's been helping me take care of her, paying for her medicine, because I can't tell you the truth. I can't ask you for help because then you'd know everything. You'd know that I'm not the elegant, sophisticated woman you married. I'm just a scared girl from the east side who's watching her mother die and can't do anything about it. Bennett got out of bed and sat down on the floor next to her. He didn't touch her. He just sat there. Are you done? He asked gently. Vivienne nodded, unable to speak. Okay, Bennett said. Now it's my turn to tell you something. Vivienne looked at him confused and afraid. I already knew, Bennett said. Vivienne's eyes went wide. What? I already knew about your mother, about Declan, about where you really come from. I found out a few days ago. How? Vivienne whispered. I was the taxi driver. Bennett admitted that day when you got in the car and made the phone call. That was me. I disguised myself because I thought you were cheating on me. I thought Declan was your lover. But then I heard your conversation, and I realized everything. Vivienne stared at him in shock. You knew this whole time. You knew? Yes. And you didn't say anything. I needed time to think, Bennett said, to understand, to figure out how to be the kind of husband you deserved. Because Vivienne, you were right to be scared of telling me the truth. Not because I would have stopped loving you, but because I wasn't worthy of your truth yet. I don't understand, Vivienne said. Bennett took a deep breath. I'm not a bad person, Vivienne. But I'm not as good as I thought I was either. I spent my whole life in a bubble, a rich, comfortable bubble where I never had to think about people who were struggling. I was polite to them. I was nice to them, but I never saw them as equals. I never saw them as real people with real problems and real dignity. He looked at her directly. If you had told me the truth on our first date, if you had told me your father was a bricklayer and your mother sold vegetables, I want to believe I would have still asked you out. But honestly, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have, and that makes me ashamed. Vivienne was crying again, but softer now, quieter. So, I've been trying to change, Bennett continued. Really change. Not because I got caught, not because I have to, but because meeting your mother and your Uncle Declan showed me something I should have known all along. That good people are everywhere. That dignity has nothing to do with money. That family love matters more than anything else. He told her about the raises for the maintenance staff, about the improved health insurance, about the fund for employees in need, about the doctor's appointment he had made. Wait, Vivienne interrupted. What doctor's appointment? Dr. Garrett Voss. He's one of the best cancer specialists in the country. He's going to visit your mother tomorrow afternoon. He's going to examine her and create a treatment plan. And Vivienne, we're going to pay for whatever she needs. The best treatment, the best care, everything. Vivienne shook her head. Bennett, that costs. I don't care what it costs, Bennett said firmly. She's your mother. She's my family now too. And family takes care of family. That's what Declan told me, and he's right. Vivienne covered her face with her hands and sobbed. But this time, Bennett could tell they were different tears, not tears of fear or shame, tears of relief. He moved closer and wrapped his arms around her. She buried her face in his chest and cried for a long time. Bennett just held her, not saying anything, just letting her release years of fear and loneliness and exhaustion. Finally, Vivienne pulled back and looked at him. Her face was blotchy and wet, but she looked lighter somehow, like a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulders. You really went to see my mother? She asked. Yes. And you met Declan? Yes. And you? You're not angry? You're not disappointed in me? Vivienne, Bennett said, taking her face in his hands. I'm not disappointed in you. I'm amazed by you. Do you understand how strong you are? You built yourself up from nothing. You took care of your family. You went to school at night while working during the day. You fought for a better life and you got it. That's incredible. But I lied to you because you were scared, Bennett said. And you were scared because I made you feel like you had to be perfect to be loved. That's on me, not on you. So, I'm the one who should be apologizing. I'm sorry, Vivienne. I'm sorry I wasn't the kind of husband you could trust with your truth. Vivienne started crying again. I thought you would hate me. I could never hate you, Bennett said. I love you. I love the real you. The girl from the East Side who sold mangoes on street corners. The woman who visits her sick mother every week and lies about where she's going because she's protecting her family. The brave, strong, beautiful person who's been carrying this burden all alone for so long. Vivienne threw her arms around him and held him tight. They sat on the floor together, holding each other, crying together, finally being honest with each other. After a long time, Vivienne pulled back. Can I go see my mother today for real this time without lying about it? Of course, Bennett said. In fact, I want to come with you if that's okay. Vivienne looked shocked. You want to come with me to the East Side? Yes. I want to meet your family properly, your siblings, your neighbors, everyone. I want to see where you came from. I want to understand your whole story. But your meetings, your work can wait, Bennett said firmly. This is more important. Vivienne wiped her eyes. Okay. But Bennett, they're going to ask questions about why I lied, about why I hid them from you for years. What do I tell them? Tell them the truth, Bennett said. Tell them you were scared. Tell them I wasn't ready to meet them until now. Tell them I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm ready now. Vivienne nodded slowly. Then a small smile crossed her face, the first real smile Bennett had seen in days. My mother is going to love you, she said. She already met me, remember? Bennett said with a small laugh. I know, but this time will be different. This time you'll be meeting her as her son-in-law, not as a stranger trying to fix things. As family. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Yes, Bennett said. As family. Hours later, Bennett and Vivienne were in the car together, driving to the east side. Vivienne kept looking at him like she couldn't quite believe this was really happening. Are you nervous? She asked. Terrified? Bennett admitted. What if your family doesn't like me? They'll like you, Vivienne said. My mother already said you were handsome. She did. Yes. Right before she told me you had kind eyes, but needed to learn some lessons. Bennett laughed. She was right about that. They drove through the familiar streets, the ones Bennett had driven through in his disguise just a few days ago. But everything looked different now. The old buildings didn't seem run down anymore. They seemed lived in. The children playing in the street weren't those poor kids. They were just kids playing, being happy. They parked in front of Building 47. Vivienne took a deep breath. Ready? She asked. Ready? Bennett said. They walked up to the front door together. Vivienne knocked. The door opened, and there stood Declan. He looked at Bennett in surprise. Then he looked at Vivienne, then back at Bennett. She told you, he said. It wasn't a question. She told me. Bennett confirmed. Declan.